Shall we start, sir?
Good afternoon. I think 67 are there. They will be joining.
Okay, sir.
11:30. You can introduce our guest
Okay,
speaker,
sir.
and we will start by 11:30.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Once again, a very good morning and a warm welcome to all the participants and Dr. Dhaval Kumar Joshi, who is a project scientist at Photovoltaics Laboratory, Center for Energy Studies, IIT Delhi. So his expertise and research area includes development of nanomaterials for versatile applications of third generation photovoltaics, photocatalysis, solar water splitting, energy storage applications. So he did his PhD work in efficient light harvesting using hybrid plasmonic nanoparticle for solar energy applications from Green Energy Technology, Pondicherry University. So he has 11 research articles published in various highly reputed international journals and various international national conferences. His research experience includes International Research Fellow under TIP Internship Program, NTU Taiwan, Research Fellow and a Project Fellow, so under MNRE SRF, DST SERB at the Center of Green Energy Technology, Pondicherry University, Project trainee at the Center for Solar Energy Materials, International Advanced Research Center, ARCI, Hyderabad, for the projects. Development of single layer broadband anti-reflective coating for solar energy applications and development of hydrophobic, easy to clean coating, solar PV and CSP applications. So now Dr. Dhaval Joshi is going to deliver an expert keynote lecture in session 2 of our FDP program on hybrid nanomaterials and technologies for solar energy applications. Sir, we request you to give your valuable contribution to our FDP. So, sir, please take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? I hope am I audible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
First of all, I would like to congratulate MDIT team for arranging this ATAL program, FDP program, and I'm also very much thankful that for this invitation to give this to give me opportunity to share some of my research work and some of my knowledge in this program. So the best suitable title I found for my talk is like hybrid nanomaterial and technologies for solar cell application. So previously esteemed speaker Professor Satyanarayana, so he has already delivered talk that mostly application of sol gel synthesis and nanomaterials for battery, and like I'm very much grateful that my talk is after him, so that now you people are like having like filled with a lot of knowledge, and for me it will be very easy to contribute for this talk. So overall, my talk, the outline of my talk will be, firstly, I'll just have a little bit introduction about nanotechnology. Then I will just focus on some of the issues related to like global warming, and it's one of solution is like using solar cell and solar energy. Then I will talk basic of plasmonic nanoparticles. That is like type of nanoparticle, metal nanoparticles, which uses in the solar cells to increase its efficiency. Then basically I will apply that material in the rice and solar cells. So I will just talk about some basics of DSSC and how we can utilize this plasmonic nanoparticle for the light harvesting application in the DSSC. Finally, I will talk about some anti-reflection coating technology and spray coating technology. So I'll just start my talk. So nanotechnology, yeah, I'm giving lectures to faculties of India. So I'm sure you are very much aware about nanotechnology and like how exactly that. But mostly in this lecture, I will show that how we can utilize, how can we use the nanotechnology or nanomaterials for the application in for different various applications, and mostly I will focus on the solar cell application. So yeah, the nanotechnology starts with one very famous quote by Richard Feynman that there is a plenty of room at the bottom, and so like just I give little bit visualization about like what is exactly the nanometer scale is. Like 1 nanometer is about like our fingernails grows every second. So this is like how we can understand that every second what is our fingernails grows, that this tiny quantity is somewhere is a nanotechnology, nanometer scale. And we are going to play around this type, we are going to synthesize this type of this tiny of materials, and we are going to have application of these materials. So another, I can just give that one hydrogen atom is the smallest atom as a radius, and like 10 hydrogen atom when we keep side by side, approximately 10 hydrogen atom, then it becomes around 1 nanometer. And one strand of hair, it's around 1,20,000 nanometer wide. So overall, why we are so much interested in nanotechnology is generally is like first of all, what is the nanotechnology and nanoscience? There is like nanoscience and nanotechnology. Nanoscience is just a study of this fundamental principle of these nanostructures, what we synthesize, and how it changed, how its property changed from bulk to atomic scale. And application of this material mostly comes in the nanotechnology. So why we are very much interested in nanotechnology is very, very important application of nanotechnology is because of its high surface to volume ratio. When we decrease the scale of the material from bulk to nano, its surface to volume ratio becomes very high. So what is the surface to volume ratio? If I tell you is like if you put a stone in the water or if you put a sponge in the water. Now, although suppose the size of both the material is same, but sponge can absorb a large amount of water than the stone because it's have very high surface to volume ratio. It's a porous structure. So nanotechnology is somewhere because of this material, it can be used for plenty of application where surface chemistry involves, such as I can tell like photocatalytic application, where like we have to clean the dye. So how much more dye is getting absorbed, that much we can purify the particular thing, suppose the water, in more amount. So this is a very, very important property why nanotechnology is very much interested. Another property is the optical material, optical properties. Like when we go to the nanoscale, its optical properties of the material get changed. And this because of the tuning or because of the change in the band gap, as we reduce the scale, like I hope you are aware that band gap of the material increases. And because of this, now once the band gap changes, then obviously all optoelectronic property of the material completely changed. So we can generate generally new type of properties by using this nanomaterial. Then that is not possible in case of the same material when it is a bulk size. So this is somewhere like how surface to volume ratio increases, that this is some figure that if you take the same size of material, but when we divide it into the scale, that surface area, if you see here, like surface area of material is around 6 meters square. But when the same material, when we divide into nanoscale and we reduce the scale, its surface area increases as high up to 24 meters square. So you can imagine when we go to the nanoscale, how much it can increase. And this is some graph which shows that as the size of the material reduces, the surface area, how it is increases. Like when the material is around micrometer, is almost surface area is very near to 0. But when we go less than 10 nanometer scale, the surface area increases from like 20 and even 80 percentage around at 2.5 to 3 or 5 nanometer scale. So this is the same thing like as like suppose we have a metal, and when we reduce the metal to the nanoscale, the band gap increases and we can even tune to semiconductor to insulator type of material. So another very good application of this nanomaterial, especially in the noble nanoparticles. That is, the noble metal is silver, gold, copper. Why? Because this material are very interesting because they have electron crowd. There is no band gap type of thing. There is an electron crowd at the surface of the material. And that electron crowds can easily react with the incident light, that is the sunlight. And it can generate some resonance. a particular wavelength based on its size. I hope everybody is very much aware of the resonance effect that we studied, I think, in TEL standard, that with the example of military, right, on bridge resonance. So a particular wavelength, it creates resonance, and because of resonance, it have many applications. And at nanoscale, we can tune this SPR resonance, like we can change the color of the solution, and we can generate many properties, which I am like this whole lecture, mostly 80% of lecture is going to based on how we can use this plasmonic nanoparticle for some different applications. So this is again some of like, there are two main synthesis approach for the synthesis of nanomaterial. I hope professor has in previous lecture, professor has delivered the talk on this, like top down and bottom up approach. Mostly in like chemical, all the chemical approaches are bottom up approach, most of the approaches, and I'm going to focus on the bottom up approach at being a chemical scientist. So like my main application of this all nanomaterial is going to be used in the solar cell. Why am I very much interested in solar cell? It's like we all knows about the global warming issues, and there should be some solution to like what this persistently increasing global warming issues. Like there should be some solutions, and utilization of solar energy is somewhere very good solutions. So that because solar energy is very abundant in the in our day-to-day on the Earth's surface. So generally, how we use the solar energy is there are two main approaches. One is solar thermal route and one is solar potential route. What is solar thermal route is that is a three-step process that we use the sunlight to convert into the heat, that is a solar thermal, and that heat we can use the different application like to generate some chemical reaction or to create some potential. So heat to electricity. Suppose we want electricity, so solar is a two-step process: solar to thermal, thermal to electricity. And solar potential is a direct route where we can directly convert sunlight into the electricity. So these are generally like some plants. This is I think Thermex plant where like these are some absorber material, and these are some concentrator where we use the sunlight to concentrate on particular point, and we can generate temperature as high as up to 700 degrees centigrade by sunlight, using sunlight. And these are some solar power plants. I hope now like this is so. Considering in solar cell, there are generally mainly three generations in the solar cell. What I have shown, what is now available is crystalline silicon solar cell is the first generation solar cell. Then comes the second generation solar cell, that is only CIGS, CDT, amorphous silicon solar cell. And also like why we have to shift to first generation to second generation solar cell is like we need to make a cheaper material because it should be affordable by the public when we want to use it at highest potential. Because if public don't purchase anything, then no technology is useful. So to make it cheap, there are different type of solar cell, but however, these materials are like not much abundant. So there is like people shift to third generation solar cell. That is like they have better efficiency at the lab scale as of now. And this uses these are generally solution process solar cell. This uses some perovskite or dyes organic solutions, and this very much related to like photosynthesis process. What it is there we found in nature, and it generates the electricity with that. So my focus is going to be mostly on DSSC that I'm working on third generation, and also there are generations like in third generation also there is like gallium arsenide approach, and which generally uses like in the satellite type of application where we need very high efficiency, and efficiency of that type of solar cell reach as high as up to 70%, 60 to 70%. So like when we work on solar cell, what like the first thought it comes that we have to focus on mostly two main things. Either we have to increase the efficiency. So solar cell, we want to use it, we want to like utilize it in the best manner. We have to either increase the efficiency, and also we have to reduce the production cost. Now increasing efficiency can happen in two ways. Generally is like we can this I will just discuss in my next slides, that we can reduce the recombination ratios, and mainly we can improve the spectral. What is the spectral response is like how much my solar cell reacts with the light, how much it absorbs the light. Definitely that more electricity will generate. And for production cost, like we have to make low fabrication cost, and we have to use smarter material. So we will generally focus in improving spectral response and like how we can use smarter material to reduce the production cost. So when I come to like solar cell, like we can maximum utilize around 500 to 300 nanometer of like with light that visible and near IR light, and we have to work mainly in 3 categories that we have to like harvest more light. Now light is getting more harvested and electron generating, but if they are getting recombined, it is no use. So before it gets recombined, we have to transport it to the load. So it should have rapid electron transport and minimum recombination. So now if I want to improve the sunlight efficiency, and if I want to increase the light harvesting, so very generally we can think that, okay, light is getting transmitted because of less thickness, let us improve the thickness of the material. So as per the Lambert-Beer law, more thickness is there, we will harvest almost all amount of light and the problem is solved. What is that big deal in this? But the problem is recombination. Every material is having particular diffusion line, electron diffusion line. So what the material generated at the surface of this our anode, we consider, suppose in the case of DSS, that only contribute to the electron. But what is generated beneath of the layer, they generally just get recombined. So it does not contribute. So this is not the solution. So one of the solution we can come up with this type of material that we can't increase the thickness. So without increasing the thickness, if we want to improve the light harvesting, what we can do is we can just trap the light in between. So it is called that some light trapping type of technology we have to involve. So how we can do that? So light trapping technology, like either you just put some material which scatters the light inside, so that light will generally get scattered inside the material itself, and we can able to harvest some more light. So this is generally just a fundamental. But how we can do that? What type of material we can use to have this type of effect? So there comes the surface plasmonic material. Now, before I go to the plasmonic material, I have just little bit basic of surface plasmon resonance. That this is, as I just told in the previous, this is just like all the material, all the metal nanoparticle materials have free electron cloud, and this electron can. We know that sunlight is nothing but electromagnetic field, so it can have interaction with this electromagnetic field, and electron generally opposes this electromagnetic field, and because of that there will be some movement in the electron. Now at particular wavelength, some resonance type of effect will happen, and we can have this is called the surface plasmon resonance. Now in the sunlight, there are mostly 2 type of plasma SPR effect. One is near field enhancement. What it is called near field enhancement is like what material is there, it will at the area, at the surface, like in the vicinity of that particular plasmonic material, it will have more light concentration. So it is, we can call it like antenna. That antenna receives the light signals and it just forwards. So this will this is kind of antenna type of effect, where sunlight will generally absorbed by the plasmonic material, it will emit almost same SPR region. And another is called the far field scattering. So this phenomena is generally depend on the Rayleigh scattering phenomena, that they based on the material size, which type of effect it will give, it depends on generally that. So this far field scattering we can use to like in the solar cell. So these are generally 4 type of phenomena: far field scattering, and this is called the radiative phenomena, because here the radiative, like what the loss of the light. If we can't tell loss of the light, then we can tell what the emission of the light is in form of light, in form of some radiation, light radiation. And there are some non-radiative phenomena also, that like it does not emit light, but sometimes that electron what got excited, it just get transferred. So this is called hot electron transport and PRET. But here in PRET, just that energy get transferred to the near vicinity of the material. So we can utilize all 4 effects, but generally in solar cell, this 2 effect is very prominent, as we are playing somewhere around the light. So like this is general, like how we can generate different, like as we know that plasmonic nanoparticle is very much related, like the FSPR effect is very much related to shape and size of the material. If we change the shape of the material, if we have different shapes of the material, then this SPR, as it is generally the surface electron cloud, it reacts in a different way. It may generate dipole, quadrupole, some type of moment, and overall it may have different, as we can tune where the light can be absorbed. So like when we apply this material in solar cell, we can see that which wavelength we want to absorb the light, and we can tune its SPR, and we can utilize it effects in a better way. So this is just like based on size, whether we will have near field enhancement or far field scattering. So this is somewhere Rayleigh scattering phenomena, that what type of phenomena we want, we can tune around with the size of the material. So this is a change in the size and change in the shape of the material. And also different type of material, like suppose silver nanoparticle is very much well known to give SPR at 400 nanometer, but gold nanoparticle, they give around 530 to somewhere 600. But when we mix, we can have even broader silver and gold, we can have even broader region of the absorption. So this is how I show that different shapes of the material, how it absorbs, like different shapes. Suppose I'm mixing all the shapes together, then maybe I can have very broad region of the absorption that I can harvest almost all type of sunlight. So this is where like in previous I have focused my research topic. So if you want to now apply this type of solar cell, this type of plasmonic nanomaterial in the solar cell, we can apply three main ways. This is a publication by Harry Atwater. From that only actually this field of research, that application of plasmonic in the solar cell has started. That like we can apply the top. So when light falls, it will simply get scattered over the solar cell, and we can absorb the more light. Another is, as I told, that we can embed in between so that it will work as an antenna. And this is SPP, surface class polarizer, that we are not going to discuss much, and it is like not like it needs some high level of technology. So mostly there are two type of way that either we can apply at the top, or if we can apply it we can embed that material into the layer. So I am going to use this material in solar cell. So I just will give that what is the DSSC actually, how DSSC exactly work and how it looks like. So I will just, this is a schematic of DSSC, that we have one glass substrate and we coat it with a transparent conductive oxide. So this is some type of material which should be transparent also and which should be conductive also, so that it can take the electron what we are generating in the solar cell. It is coated with a TiO2 material. This is generally a mesoporous type of material. And like why mesoporous is like we have to absorb more dye. So TiO2 is generally electron conductor, and dye is light absorber, and it will generate the electron, like photo generated electron. We can tell it's like a charged carrier, photo generated charge carrier. So when this is the anode portion, this is we call the anode, where generally electron generation happens overall and collection happens at the cathode, and it is called like the same type of TCO and glass substrate we coat with platinum as a catalyst, so that we can have better collection. And when we sandwich this, and we just fill with a redox electrolyte, so that we can complete the circuit that I will discuss in this next. So this is like lab scale in lab, how we generate the cells. That this is called anode, that TiO2 FTO dye, and we just put some this is a cathode, that is a platinum cathode, and we put an electrolyte, and this is a solar cell. This is what we made the DSSC in the laboratory. And after the fabrication, we measure the efficiency of this type of solar cells at the IV simulator. And this is the IV characteristic. This shows that what is the quality of the solar cell, what we have fabricated. So this is a working principle, that how it works, how DSSC works is, when light falls on this solar cell, like all the dye is having, how semiconductors are having band gap, the organic dyes are having HOMO and LUMO level, highest occupied molecular orbital and lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. So electron get transferred to HOMO to LUMO, and by absorbing the light, and that electron goes to the TiO2 conduction band. Conduction band is completely empty, the TiO2, and that TiO2 to FTO, FTO to load to it go to platinum cathode, and redox electrolyte take that electron, and it again oxidizes the dye. So this is a general phenomena, working principle, that how DSSC works, and this cycle keeps on running, and we can get the energy from the sunlight and we can run the load. But this is like not that is. There are some recombination also. There is some, we call that injection, that sometimes it electron not get inject from di to TiO2, and it again recombine back. Hole and electron what generated, it recombine back. And sometimes from what electron goes to TiO2, it get recombined with the TiO2 electrolyte. So and also possibilities that from conductive of TiO2 it combined with the HOMO of the di again. So these are some recombination losses which reduce the efficiency, and we have to work around this. We have to work that this problem. So while fabricating cells, we should have better quality of the cells, that this recombination losses does not occur. So like in solar cell, what wideband material we use, we should have like high die loading of the material. As I explained, that die loading is high, then light absorption will be high. And also we should have electron transport will be smooth, so that recombination losses does not occur. Now there is some optimization, that if we want smooth electron transport, then we have to use some nanotubes or some long wavelength material. But long height or long length material, not wavelength, I'm sorry. But this type of material will have very less surface area, and surface area will be less, die loading we can't improve. And if we have high die loading, then definitely we have to generate more high surface area. But high surface area if you generate, then electron transport will not be smooth. So overall we have to compromise some effect, and we have to get some, we can get some optimum number of efficiency. These are the limitations. So around in DSSC, up to now, the reported efficiency is approximately 14 to 15%. So in DSSC, now my research, suppose I want to like the dye, this is the N7 dye, a dye, that red color dye what I showed. This is absorption spectra of that dye molecules. So here we see that the light absorbs very high at 500 to 550 nanometer. Absorption is very good, but after 550 absorption start reducing, and also before 500 wavelength the absorption is not that good. So if I want to if I can increase the light absorption in this particular zone, maybe I can get good efficiency. So this I consider as a potential zone, that if somewhere if I can play around with my plasmonic nanomaterial, what I discussed, that where if this area it absorbs more light, I can have really very good light harvesting, and somewhere I can manage to have better efficiency. So overall, how I can do that? How I can increase that absorption? So one is that I have to use better dye other than N71 dye. If I use some other dye which has have broad absorption, it is possible, but organic chemistry is also having some limitations, that it cannot absorb that light in all the region. So that first one, like up to now the base dye available and is N71 dye. So let us work that this is the base dye, and we have to work on this. Another thing is I can increase the dye loading so that light will be absorbed more, and overall I can boost up the efficiency. The third thing is main is I can increase the optical path, that no need to increase dye loading, no need to increase the dye. So no change in the fabrication of the structure, just increase the optical path of the material by some extent. So here where that plasmonic nanomaterial comes play of the role that I am discussing now. So this is somewhere is about plasmonic nanomaterial. That approach 1 and 2, which I told that this is have some limitations. So in approach 3 now, although my dye loading is optimum, but if I put my plasmonic nanomaterial, then now at the vicinity of the material, now it helps dye. Plasmonic nanomaterial don't absorb and give the electron, don't absorb light and give the electron to TiO2, but it generally helps the dye molecule to absorb the more light. So this is the way I can just like these are like a catalyst type of thing. You can tell that this will just help dye molecules to absorb the more light. So this is like how LSPR effect, near field coupling. I told in my previous slide that there are two effects, near field coupling and far field scattering. So this is how near field coupling, this is schematic that how it works. And another is a far field scattering. So this is also very important, where total optical length of the material increase, and the light what it is get like that when plasmonic nanoparticle get excited with the light, that light emitted light goes in the long region. This is called the far-field scattering. So generally this both type of effect occurs simultaneously. So all nanoparticles based on size, it have some extent of both that I have shown in that graph. So this is the way we can utilize this material. So this is I just like what material I have synthesized. I started with all that, like with all this knowledge what I got, I started synthesizing my silver nanoparticle that I want to absorb the light in the broader region. So this is some synthesis procedure which is called the chemical reduction material. Chemical reductions of some, I have some salt precursors, silver metal salt, and I use some reducing agent and the solvents, and I just mix up and I synthesize some nanoparticles. So I will show very interesting research now that when we synthesize, as I told, the spherical nanoparticle is having very good absorption at 400 nanometer. But this much, as I showed, that it's not only sufficient. We should have absorption in the broader region. So I have synthesized, like I have made some protocol that I can synthesize all the size and shape of the material in one go. Like no need to make different material with different synthesis process. I can just make it in one go, one pot synthesis. I can make all the sample, all the size, and some different, all the shapes and some different size of the material. So this is like the method which I showed previously. This is the TAM image that we see that here some triangles are there, some cubes we have synthesized, some octagons we have synthesized, and some of the random set. Because of this, what happened? That SPR is, as I told, is very much dependent on the shape and size. So absorption of this UV visual absorption of this material increase in a broad region, and this is some FTI. So these are the characteristics we have to see before applying in the solar cell, that when we use in the solar cell, it should be PVD coated so that it is not reacting with the electrolyte, that is electrolyte what we use. And these are some XRD image that it confirms that, yeah, whatever its form is a silver nanoparticle, and we compare it with the JCPDS data. So these are the some AFM images of my AFM. The above one is AFM and the bottom one is SEM images. So these are some TiO2 nanoparticles, and this silver nanoparticle what I have synthesized, I am going to load over this TiO2. So this is around 70 nanometers porous structure. So this nanoparticles what I have synthesized silver, it goes inside this matrix. That silver nanoparticle goes inside this 7 micrometer film, and what theory I explained earlier, I'm going to test that theory, that whether it is going to work or not. So like if I want to test that silver nanoparticle in my material, I just mix it up with different dye molecules that what I have used. So here we can see that this is the UV visible spectrum of my dye all alone, N71 dye. But when I mix with a spherical nanoparticle, this is SAGNP is a spherical, so we can see that absorption is not improved much. It's okay. Some good absorption has been improved. But when we mix with a mixed shape of nanoparticle, we observe that there is a broad increment in this absorption. So I got that, okay, my nanoparticle is working very well in this with a dye molecule. It is having some coupling with a dye molecule. So I just tested with a photoanode that in the thin film how it reacts, and we see that absorption is increased very drastically when I apply this material in the TiO2 and the photoanode dye. And also overall, like I wanted to observe that okay, whatever this absorption has been increased, it is because of like more thickness or some other effect, or it's just because of my plasmonics. So this is some dye deloading test we carry forward, that we take the dye and we again measure the absorption. So here we confirm that okay, dye deloading is also like it's almost same. So all the absorption what I got is basically because of the plasmonic nanoparticle. So this is XRD of the TiO2 film, and mainly like this XRF image shows that okay, only this absorption I have got improvement is only by applying 1 weight percentage of the TiO2. So TiO2 is 99 weight percentage in the film, and only 1 weight percentage silver gives me most absorption improvement is around 35%. So after overall, since I fabricated the device, and these are the device characteristic, and we see that efficiency of the device improved from 3 to 4.86. This is almost 50% of the enhancement in the efficiency. And overall, the same is we can observe in the IPC. This is generally EQE spectra, which is called like how much photon we give to the cell and how much electron it generates. So this gives overall idea. And we see that spectral response is really very good for when I apply the plasma nanoparticle. So this is the way how we like general basic knowledge, what we studied, what I have studied in my time and some literature I have applied in the having. So this work published in some 75 factor journal, Solar Energy Material Solar Cell, and also part of work published in Materials Letters. So this is a similar type of work that what I have showed earlier, that when I have different type of I just took two type of spherical and one broadband. So I thought that why can't I just make some polychromic particles? So I just did little bit change in the synthesis procedure. I could make 5 different color of nanoparticle: red, pink, blue, and green. So this is just by one pot. Just I have like collected the sample at different time, and we can see that it's complete plasmonic tuning. We can get it. And the same, then after that same study, then I found out why this color change is there. So I just took 10 images of all this all these different colors of silver nanoparticles, and what we found is, okay, when we have different color, we took 10, we see that in spherical nanoparticle, it's generally it gives some octagonal particle in the pink, and in blue we found that some rod, some triangle is there, and green I found that only triangle nanoparticles are there. So based on that, I have made this scheme that how with the time particles are getting changed. So and these are some same type of characteristic we take, that we mix the particle with a dye in the photoanode, and we take the XRD. These are the general characteristics, and it is a must to perform to check the quality of the material what we synthesize. And these are the same IV characteristic data, and we saw that how efficiency in this case also, like now with the time I got some better efficiency, and in this case also I got some 30% enhancement of efficiency. So this is how we perform some research, and we use some particles, what plasmonic nanoparticle we synthesize, and overall I got better result in silver. So I thought, why can't let us try with a gold also. So research is generally like we try a different thing. Now one thing has tried. Now gold is even better material. Silver get oxidized easily in the room in the sunlight, and gold can't. So that's the reason gold is better. So I synthesize, like microwave synthesize. Professor Satyanarayana has given very brief talk, and he already explained that how microwave synthesizer work. So I have just used same microwave synthesizer, and little bit of my synthesis techniques, chemistry I have used, and I could make some nanoparticle which completely scatter blue light. Here in this video we see that my material, when this is a LED light, backside is a LED light, when it reacts with this LED light, when the incident on this my plasmonic nanoparticle, it completely scatters the blue light. This is somewhere the example far field scattering, what I have discussed. So why this happens? Because generally gold is like it is pink color. Then how this is? So gold nanoparticle, gold is yellow, but gold nanoparticles generally when synthesized, it absorbs at around 500. So we see that spherical nanoparticle is having absorption region, UV visible absorption region at around 500 to 600. But when I synthesize, like by this microwave method, I have synthesized is like I got again all different shapes in one pot synthesis, different shapes, and sizes also like varied. So because of this, I got overall, like my target is to get the broadband absorption from 500 to 1000 nanometer. Now we see that my material can absorb light very well. So let us see that how this material, what it is absorbed, whether it is same applicable in the solar cell also. And in this, like just by changing a little bit of procedure, that instead of PVP and DMF, I added some ethylene glycol. So this is like 2 reducing agent type of system. And what I observed is like I could tune the corner of the material, like in the previous, there is like, it is a truncated edge type of nanoparticle. It's not a sharp edge. And this is a very sharp edge nanoparticle. Sharp edge is very, very useful because this create a hotspot. Here the plasmonic resonance will be very high. So this material should show even better results. So I have used this material. I have applied into the dye, into the photoanode, studied different XRD characteristics, and this is called the EDAX mapping. Like by using SAM EDAX, we see that how it has been uniformly dispersed. So we see that this is a TiO2 thin film, and in mapping we see that okay, my gold nanoparticle is uniformly dispersed and is really very less quantity than the titanium. So this is around 1%, 1 to 2%. This is 1.38% exactly, 8% of the nanomaterial we have dispersed. And absorption enhancement is really very very drastical, that we got approximately 4.73 to 6.04% enhancement. This is approximately 30 to 35% of the enhancement. And this is IPC. We see that at longer wavelengths where particular dye is not absorbing, this gold nanoparticle is able to absorb even better light. So these are instead of like we mix it, we get embedded. We first do drop casting. We have done some embedding the nanomaterial. So these are some results. Now, like I have made silver and I have made gold, but now gold is very costly. So now what I can do is, why can't I make a silver and gold alloy? So that way we can, alloy is like, it will not oxidize also, and it will be more stable, and it will be cheaper also. And I can easily tune the different color just by changing different silver and different gold. So I just made alloy by using different silver and gold type of nanoparticles. And we see that completely, I got a polychromic solution. And the same like in XRD, now whether alloy has been formed or not, to check that, what I have done is, I have just done some XRD and we see little bit shift in the material, which clearly shows that okay, alloy has been formed. And some characteristic that you visible, like we see that in a blue color one, we see that we can get peak of silver also and gold also. So I got again like both the characteristics, silver and gold. It does not work with all the composition. It can work with particular composition only. So I found that it gold 25 and silver 75 when I used, it is forming really better alloy. And I have utilized this material for solar cell applications. So now after plasmonic, like just a plasmonic nanomaterial, I made good plasmonic nanomaterial. But where I will put this, the better host, I have up to now I just use the normal TiO2 nanoparticle. Now I thought I should make better host that it should absorb even more light by host itself, and plasmonic can just add the effects. So based on that, I drafted one synthesis protocol where I used, this is like no acid because gold and silver can get reacted with acid. So this does not use any acid. It just take ethylene glycol and water. And what gold nanoparticle I synthesize, I just mix it with this solution, and this is the result. So this is just a TiO2 nanoparticle. So now I am not fabricating TiO2 separately and gold I am putting separately. Now I just made one pot synthesis of gold as well as TiO2. And as I add the gold inside my material, we can see that different colors, color like getting darker, which increasing the gold weight percentage in the material. So some XRD of that particular materials, and this is the TAM. So TAM image shows like we got some around 10 nanometer. The particle size is somewhere around 5 to 10 nanometers. So it is really very small size for crystallites. Particle size is quite big that I am showing here. The particle size is somewhere around 200 nanometer, but the crystallites, small crystallites is just only 5 nanometer. So this material I found is like very much suitable for the DSSC application, because small crystallites give better electron transport and bigger particle size will give better light scattering. The light will scatter more, as we know Rayleigh scattering phenomena. I explained also earlier. And the similar, now we see that when we like this is just a TiO2, and when gold I am increasing the doping, we see that SPR, because of SPR effect, we get some absorption peak. This is a reflection. So this is in absorption we'll get a peak. And also we see that when we increase the load, some red shift is happening. So this took almost 1 month for me, that why this red shift is happening. And I overall found that, okay, maybe with increasing the percentage, some aggregation of gold is happening. And that is the reason, because of this, some red shift is happening. And when we apply this material into the die, we see that like the region where I showed that potential region, we see good absorption. So now this material, I found that overall, after all the design I can conclude that I have made the best material for the plasmonic application, and it has given really very excellent IPC. Like both in earlier cases, now the IPC, the QE photo response is now very much better. And this is some schematic that when light will form not only from gold, it also gets scattered. So overall, the optical length. Now I am not increasing the thickness of the material, but I am increasing the optical length of the material. So overall, after all this, like what is the scope that now I have done some work. Now in future, like I will happy to collaborate that we can, other than dye, we can use some quantum dots, which are even better, even cheaper, because dyes are very costly. Almost it costs 1 lakh rupees. And we can, what material we have, silver and gold, we synthesize, we can coat with silica, we can make some core cell structure, same material, so that we can improve its stability. So this is some future work what we can carry forward. Now, in previous lecture, professor has explained already sol gel method. That like sol gel method is like very much famous in wet chemistry among the researchers, because one main thing is it is a low temperature process, no required of high temperature. And another thing is the purity of material. It generates very pure material. And importantly, we can even make some powders also. We can make fiber also by electrospinning, and we can also coat in any complex substrate this material. We can make thin film, we can coat a round substrate just by deep coating process. This will also. So based on this sol gel process, also I have used my sol gel process again. Earlier I have used chemical reduction for silver nanoparticle and gold nanoparticle. Now I have used some sol gel process to make one of my protocol design, that is I wanted to synthesize TiO2 aggregates. Now why I wanted to synthesize TiO2 aggregates is like, this is some basics. Maybe I can discuss with someone whoever is interested in a brief. But overall I can tell is like when particle size are big, absorption will be better. So I wanted to have big particle, but the problem with big particle is the dye loading. What I told it is not, it won't be much proper. Dye loading only at the upper layer will happen. The bottom layer dye loading will be not good. So what I have to do is I have to create some mesoporous particles again, and so that I can have better dye loading. So with this all protocols, I decided that okay, we can have better surface area, better size of the material, and we can make some microsynthesis protocol that we can generate this type of particles. So this is some schematic. So this work got published in Journal of Material Science around 5 impact factor journal. Said that we see that how like the titanium precursor by using sol gel process. Sol gel is generally hydrolysis and condensation that we know, and we also professor has explained. So hydrolysis and condensation, I can create some nanoparticle. But what is the novelty in this work was, instead of just centrifugation, I just lyophilize it. Lyophilize is just like in this sublimation reaction happens, that the liquid, the nanoparticles, it directly condenses into vapor, and we can, because of lyophilization, I can get some aggregation in the material. But as it is at the low temperature, I think it was around -191, so it does not like packed aggregation, it is loosely packed aggregation. So overall, what we designed, we got some good material which is loosely packed, and these are some XRD and Raman's characteristic. And whether it is loosely packed or not, we performed some DET analysis, and we found that okay, surface area of the material is really very high than the normally what particle is available. It's almost increased by 2-fold times. So I found okay, this material is loosely packed and is also having good porous, like its porosity is very much centered at around 5 nanometers. So I got like, I solved the problem of dye loading. Then time analysis, I got a very small crystal, although it is like aggregates are bigger size, I got some crystallites of 10 nanometer. And this is the particle size which we can tell is approximately around 300 nanometer particles. Although crystallites is 5 nanometer, particle size is very high. So overall, I can get better dye loading. And light scattering is better or not, that we can see by using some DRS spectroscopy. Here we see that light is not getting scattered much in the normal particle. P25 is generally used particle. But when we take our particles, light gets scattered better. Like almost, I can tell 72% enhancement is there in the scattering of the material. So optical path of the light will be very high in the material what we have synthesized. So when we use this particle, whether it is working in DSSC or not, we can clearly see that, yeah, at longer wavelength, it works really very well than the normal particles. And efficiency enhancement is also very good, from 4 to like around 5 to 7%. So overall, summary of that material, what I have synthesized, that mainly the surface area improved by 90%, dye loading improved by 20%, reflectance improved by 72%, and because of that, all things, efficiency improvement I got is around 37%. So this is the general research of my title is like hybrid nanomaterials and some technologies. So now I'll just go to some technologies. What I have done this research in ARCI in 2013. From that I have taken some slides. That why we use anti-reflection coating. Like this is also by sol gel method. That's in the sol gel method. Like this is like the initial starting of sol gel method is with SiO2. So in anti-reflection coating, we generally use a different lower refractive index material like SiO2, magnesium fluoride, magnesium nitrate. So based on that, I have made one protocol of sol gel method, and I use the deep coating process. That in deep coating, like we don't allow it form to gel. Like professor has showed that there are different gels, but in this case, we don't allow sol to convert gel. Other than making it convert into a gel, I just coat it some of my substrates, and that gelation happens on the substrate, and there I dry the material so that I can get a better coating. So these are some coatings. So this is, we see that what coatings I made. These are the coated area, and these are the uncoated area. We can see clearly haze are there in uncoated, and it's not. In this case, it's not there. How I made it? What is actually how this happens? So this happens just by the destructive interference happens at the surface. So this is some general protocol that how anti-reflection coating works. That when light falls generally on any substrate, as per the Fresnel equations, around 12% of light get reflected by both the surface. But when we put anti-reflection coating, so we can create some destructive interference. Everybody here is, I hope, very much aware about destructive interference and constructive interference, what we studied. So what that same basic phenomena have used here to fabricate the anti-reflection coating, that we can convert the reflected light in the destructive interference, so that reflection will be almost zero. If reflection is zero, now we know that T plus R plus A is equal to 1. So absorption will be always constant, so that transmission should improve. So based on this, we can tell that transmission is very much better. So these are some basic equation that we have to find out, that what should be the thickness of the material to make this anti-reflection coating to destructive interference. So based on this, we have some formula that we get that, okay, refractive index of the material, if it is 1.2, if you want to apply on the glass, which is having refractive index of around 1.6, and thickness of the material, it should be around 70 to 80 nanometer, then overall we can create this property. Now, why this anti-reflection coating is required? This anti-reflection coating, we know that glass, the solar cell glass, what we use. Now, if 12% of the light just reflected by the glass, then we will have huge loss, because 12% of light we are not at all absorbing. And the same is the case of solar thermal also. So this type of materials require this anti-reflection coatings. And this is why this all efforts we are making. Now, this anti-reflection coatings, if just it is anti-reflection, but other than that, if it is having multifunctional property, that it is having super hydrophobic nature, so that it will getting clean, because now we use solar panel, and the main problem definitely I am sure we are facing is that how to clean it. Every time we have to go up, we have to clean it. Why to do that? Why can't I make some material on that it gets self-clean? No need of cleaning. Just put some water, it is getting clean automatically. So for that we can generate some different. So this coatings what I have made is a hydrophilic anti-reflection coating. So it is having whatever water we put on the coatings, it goes inside inside the material. So this is like because of hydrophilic property, it is having anti-fogging nature also. That if we put this material in the fridge, or suppose the like temperature is very cold, the fogging of the material will not happen, and the light will be good. In the transmission of the light will be good even in any atmosphere. And why it is anti-reflection is that normal glass is having reflection of around 91.6, but when we made anti-reflection, that reflection, the transmission of the glass goes as high as 98%. So overall of now we can tell from both the side, front and back side, the reflection loss will be only 4%. So from 12%, now the loss is only 4%. It is not possible to make zero. There are always some limitations. Theoretically, it is possible. Practically, there will be limitation. So here now only 4% of the light is getting reflected. And why this is happening is because my combination. What I made is, like, I took TEUS, I took MgF2, and I took HNO3. So actually this research happened in like very magical way, that I just wanted to mix this two material, and I thought that, okay, refractive index, this is 1.5, this is 1.3, refractive index will reduce, and I will get better material. But it didn't happen this way. Even I got a better result, and I got some porous structure, and the refractive index of the material, what I showed last in previous slide, that I got even 1.1, which is not possible. If this is 1.5, if this is 1.3, if I take average, how it will be 1.1? So I myself was very much surprised that it was not 1.1, it was 1.2. So I myself surprised how it is happening. So I did like lot of literature review, and the first thing I wanted to find out why this porous structure is happening, because TEUS, what synthesis procedure I use, it is for the normal smooth surface. Why the porous structure? How come porous structure happens? So I just made one reaction scheme, and I found that, okay, when mixing MgF2 in concentrated HNO3, I am getting actually HF and MgNO3. So what this HF does is, HF, everybody we knows that it age, if we put HF on our hand, it put hole on our hand immediately. So it absorbs it ages the silica. So what is happening, that when this HF, I am heating the substrate at different temperature, it is etching the SiO2, what I am using, and this material is converting into porous structure. And that's the reason overall refractive index is reducing. So this was really excellent work, and we were about to patent this work, but we could not synthesize this material in the large scale. When we want to patent it, we should at least able to make 1 liter of solution in one go. But this synthesis procedure does not work every time. So we could make only 25 ml of solution. So we just published this work in some solar energy materials and solar cell. This is really very good high impact factor journal. And as I showed last time, that how hydrophilic property is there. So like when I put a drop, we see that on simple glass, the contact angle is around 48 to 49. And the same is with the coating. But when I put my coating, the contact angle goes as low as 6 degrees. And this is like 0 second, and within a second, it absorbs all the water because of this force. So I did not intended to make this nice structure, but I got some good results. Sometimes research happens in this way only. But the main thing is we have to understand how this research, like we have to understand what is happening. We can't just leave the things. So it took almost 1 year for me, like whole 1 year it went in this, but I got really better result. And here we see that how, like, as I showed, the thickness of material is very much important in the interaction to create a destructive interference. So here we see that when the thickness, like when we heat the sample, the thickness of the material reduces and destructive interference happens in a different wavelength. And overall at 400 degree, I got really very good spectra, absorption spectra. And in the same material, this is a hydrophilic. When I added fluorosilane, fluorine is generally known for hydrophobic nature. And the same material, when I add fluorosilane, I got a hydrophobic property. So this is, I am not discussing in details, but this is a hydrophobic like material is water contact is 110. And what we get is like this type of material, when we put on the solar cell, it cleans the material very easily. So this was my one of the research in anti-reflection coating, and I think Professor, I think, may I have some 15 minutes of time more?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yes, sir. So, like after that, like these are some the same type of coatings what I have made here. So this is on the glass substrate. This is on the glass substrate by deep coating. Now the same coating I can even do on the material. So this work I carried into Taiwan. So I just got some material which is called C540, and this material is very good for photoluminescence property, but it is having problem that it is not moisture resistance and thermal it's like degradation is very high. So for this specific work, professor called me in Taiwan that like somehow I'm explaining that I can have solution of this work. This is how we get the position somewhere in abroad. So I explained that I can have the solution of your particular problem, and I wanted to have the same idea that if I put my silica coating on this material, then maybe I can solve the problem and I could achieve some good coatings. This is, we see that SiO2 coating, although it is not uniform because the particle structure itself is not uniform. This C540 is not exactly having particular structure, but I could get some good coatings. This is like 6 months of efforts I have to take, but I get good coating of silica. So it is anti-reflection, and now it can also, like, it is moisture and thermostable because now SiO2 is there all over around this. So this is some industrial work, and I am expecting some patent from this. So here, this is some result I am showing very fast. I will go with the result that when I am taking different solvent, like I took ethanol because C540 is soluble in THF, not ethanol. So I took some ethanol. I just check it how it is work. So I got it okay up to 80 degrees centigrade. It is having, this is a stability curve. So like C540 degrades up to around 92%, but C540 is almost 1, no degradation at all. So up to 80% it is good, but with the time, like still it is okay, but at 160 now, like my material is also not able to make it safe. So target was up to 110, and up to 110 I could get successfully, I could increase, I could make it is better stable. So this is in the THF, and THF I got even better result. So these are some like photoluminescence. These are the photoluminescence property what I am showing. So this is what about this some. Now I am going to focus on one technology what we use in IIT Delhi. So now I am a project scientist in IIT Delhi, and what is my task is here. Here IIT Delhi professor has invented one system which is called spray coating. This is invented by this IIT Delhi professor itself. And how it is different from normal spray coating is this is very cheap. What ultrasonic spray available in the market is up to 10-15 lakhs. But this is cost just 80,000, and it can give very good result, comparable result to what is available in the market. So this spray coating is generally having some voltage sources and nozzle, spray nozzle, that is definitely one normal nozzle. This is available some 70,000 rupees some cost. And like in this nozzle, we put some gas so that we can generate some spray around the nozzle. So by this spray, now this spray molecule, the spray and this what gas we put inside the nozzle, it is having some optimum, and we need some very small droplets here. So what professor has thought that, okay, now like I can't put more gas inside. So now to reduce the droplet size, now droplet size is bigger. I want small droplets for my substrate of this particular, whatever material I want to pour. He put the electric field to break the droplets. So because of here some Coulombic fission happens and the droplet size reduced. And we put also another electric field at the substrate, so that because as we put some electric field, now these droplets are getting charged. And if we put opposite field, everybody knows some capacitance type of effect happens, and that material even we can spray in a smoother way by using another electric field. So this is a system developed by professor, but my duty is now I have to see that where this system is applicable. The system is there, but if it is, we can't apply it in many places, it's no use. So this wonderful system, we got it very good application in fabricating DSSC. So this is the purpose I got a job in IIT Delhi, that there is no method available in the world that we can create, we can load two different type of dyes on the TiO2 or on the substrates. Like what people use is generally we have to dip the material into the liquid. Now if we dip into the liquid, how we can create two different layers? So this is spray coating is one of the method where we can create one different dyes over a single material, and we can create a tandem nature of tandem solar cell. Tandem solar cell is nowadays took very much like very much attraction because like how I use a plasmonic to enhance the light absorption capacity. The same way I can use this tandem device that I can take some two different dyes. One dye is absorbing 400 to 700 nanometer region, and another dye is absorbing 500 to 900 nanometer region. So now I can absorb 400 to 900 nanometer because I saw that every dye is having limitation. It can having particular absorption region only. So I can now use two different dyes, and I can see. So I'm sorry. So I can see that when there is R100 is a red dye. So when I am taking all red dye, absorption is very good at 550 nanometer region, but not good at this region, 400 to 700 nanometer region. But when I keep on adding making the layer of black dye, now we see that the absorption at this region, 600 to 700, or we can consider it is having overall 400 to 700, so it is improving. And I can get it one optimum concentration, because obviously if I am putting more black dye, the red dye I have to put less. So particular, this blue color is one optimum concentration, R25, that where I take 25% of the red dye, 75% of the black dye, and we can see that now I can have absorption at both the region. 550 also I am absorbing, 650 absorbing, overall absorption improved from 400 to almost 650 nanometer region. So this way I can make a tandem device, and this is one photograph, video photograph, that this is the black dye and this is a tandem device. We can clearly see that, okay, it seems very good blackish in color, and it almost absorbs all the light, and it is also having good, it's all electronic properties also. So this is the absorption of that material, and like this is one, like the normal what we quote, all DSSC is quoted is like efficiency, JSC goes only up to 9 milliampere centimeter square, and efficiency is also like around 5%. But with the spray coating itself, we get efficiency like let me talk in JSC manner. The JSC, if JSC improved, efficiency definitely improved, because overall efficiency is very much dependent on the JSC and VOC and also fill factor. But in this case, if I am using same material, everything is same, VOC and fill factor will not change much, and JSC will change. So JSC is improving up to 11 milliampere per centimeter square. And when I am putting like the spray, as I told that we are putting 2 electric field. So the second electric field efficiency improve as high as like 12 milliampere per centimeter square. And this efficiency enhancement, you will not believe, but it is up to 55% just by using one technology, one small technology. It cost around 1,70,000. So this is overall, this is the way, and this is a tandem device that like even from for the tandem device, even from like from this 12, we can even got up to 14 milliampere centimeter by just mixing 2 dyes. So 2 milliampere per centimeter square is also very good enhancement in terms when we talked in the efficiency. So the same material, like after making DSSC, I use this system to make a perovskite, because perovskite nowadays is like very much like everybody is like working on perovskite, and it shows very good future. It seems it will have very good future, and it may replace silicon solar cell within some 10 to 15 years of time if this research is going with the same frequency, and its stability issue in the perovskite we can solve. So the same type of material, and we got better film. So these are some material that if I apply, I took different solvents to see what is the morphology by spray coating, and I found that a particular concentration and choosing better solvent, I get the conformal film, which is like not porous. These films are having some porous structure. Now this is a conformal film, so that electron transport will be better, and absorption is also I found very good. And this plane, we like XRD, we confirm the plane that a 006 plane is very intense, and it means it is growth of this material perovskite is along the substrate, not opposite. Like there will be horizontal plane, not a vertical plane. In this case, there is a vertical planes. These are the horizontal planes. So like this style of the film site we formed, and this material we particularly get from UK, because one UK professor and we have one collaboration, that spray coating system what professor has developed. we are getting one ready-made monolithic device from UK, and we are just spraying this material, this bismuth watt protocol we have developed, me and one of our students, Tulja Bhavani. We have developed one protocol and we just sprayed this material on this monolithic, because these people are facing problem that, okay, this is approximately, we can tell around 10 micrometer of the film, and they are not able to put this material completely up to complete layer. Now, as we discussed that, okay, electric, we are having very nice spray coating system, and we can do it, that we can fill complete layer with observable material like dyes or bismuth or perovskite, whatever it is, we can fill it completely. So we are doing this, and we can see that, okay, when we are applying electric field in the material at the substrate, we are getting very good infiltration, and when we are not applying, the material is just growing upper layer, so it is growing just upside, and when we apply electrical, we are able to drag this material down. So this work, we are hoping that it should go in very good journal, very good publications. So these are some infiltration that if you want to check, okay, this infiltration is happening or not. So these are some EDAX mapping, what I have showed you earlier also. So we see, okay, bismuth hydride is getting very much infiltrated, and density of the material is very, very high when we are using some protocol in the spray coating methodology. And these are some efficiency. Efficiency is not that good for bismuth perovskite as of now, but still we are getting very good voltage and efficiency. And overall, like as this infiltration is more, then what is the effect is we can get good PL quenching. PL shows that, okay, whatever electron it is forming, it is directly going to the TiO2. Quenching, we got really very good quenching. And because of that horizontal growth, what I have shown here, and this is porous. So if you have more porous material, moisture go more inside, and in this moisture is getting repelled because it can't go beneath of the layer. And that we found the stability of the material is very good. So when we fabricate something, we study it all the way, and we found, okay, up to 15 to 25 days, the material is almost stable. In 30 days, it start forming some bismuth iodide peak. This is a PL. This is UV visible. Sorry, what we have to. We start forming some peak. So overall, this is my research. There are some now, like I will just show that some of the future plan, and I would also welcome collaboration from some of the faculties whoever are willing. That now I am planning, like I have already expertise in synthesis of some metal oxide semiconductors, and we know that problem is like main water purification and water purity and some contamination by industry. So I wanted to work on photocatalytic degradation materials. And these are some schemes what I have proposed, and I already have that we can use this TiO2, ZNO, SNO2 material by using plasmonic nanoparticle what I have shown and some up conversion, and we can have better efficiency of material where we can degrade more dyes, and we can have some water purification and even hydrogen generation things. So these are some protocols what I have, and I already proposed in some of my proposals to the government, and I'm expecting to get some better results, better outputs. I have already started work, although this proposal is not accepted, and I'm not sure that where it will go. But I already started work, and I also already developed one protocol where we use sustainable. I have used sustainable synthesis process that by using sunlight itself. Now I am making nanoparticle also by using sunlight, and there is no centrifuge and no waste at all. Because when we synthesize something and that itself generates a lot of waste, what is the use to make it for the cleaning process? Because my synthesis process also itself is generating a lot of waste. So this is something what I have made that it does not require any electricity. By using sunlight itself, I can make a TiO2, and I got very good result. I got approximately 16 nanometer of TiO2 only. And I already studied like dye degradation, like how water purification. So I found that within 20 minutes, we could pure the water. Like general TiO2, what people use is they took up to 90 minutes. We cannot consider water purification. It's not drinking. Like this is like methylene blue dye degradation study we generally propose for this type of research. We see how much pollutants degradation is happening. And like I just put some silver to TiO2, and silver I got some 20 minutes, and gold, definitely gold is working better. Then I got approximately in 10 minutes itself, I got good degradation of methylene blue dyes. And by using same protocol, even I could make oxide perovskite material. These are very interesting material, and this is somewhere futures where we see that this material should work better for these properties. Where silver and gold we can mix with this perovskite materials. We can degrade dyes in better way. So these are I got by that single one-pot synthesis procedure. Even I can get different perovskite materials. So these are some work is there and some is pending, and I'm inviting collaboration if anyone is interested. And yeah, these are some XRD and TAM. That this type of material generally in micrometers of size, but what material we have synthesized is somewhere around in nanometer size only. So this is all about my talk and some collaboration, and I'm very much thankful again to head of the department and all the team for inviting me and for giving me opportunity to present some of my ideas and work. And I hope we could have utilized this time in a better way. This is my mail ID and phone number. Whoever is want to connect is most welcome. Thank you so much, Professor Arun Mozi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Participants, you can unmute and ask questions or put in the chat box if you have any questions. Participants, if you have any query, you can put in the chat box or you can unmute and ask. There is a question from Mr. Pradeep Kumar. Sir, how you tested biodegradation nanoparticles cannot easily biodegradable?
So, nanoparticles biodegradation or material degradation? The material degradation we test, as of now, we have protocol that we take some methylene blue dye and some different dyes, and we just see that how much dye this dye get degrades. And my work is mostly based on chemical degradation. Biodegradation, like I'm not exactly getting what the questioner has asked, but I hope this is the answer of that question.
Okay, sir. I think Pradeep Kumar, you got the answer. Is there any other question from the participants? You can unmute and talk. I have enabled you to unmute also.
Even if there is any suggestions also, most welcome.
Yes.
Not only questions or queries.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. I'm Anand, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there someone talking?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, whether nanocomposites can be used for finding the band gap material instead of titanium dioxide, sir?
Can you please a little bit loud?
Sir, nanocomposites, what happens to the band gap energy level, sir? Whether it can tune the band gap energy level, sir?
Nanocomposite, actually, see, tuning the band gap is like with composite is not, we have to dope the material with particular, because band gap is somewhere it was at the electronic level. For electronic level is just not just mixture of composite. Yeah, people shows that, okay, some absorption is getting changed, so band gap is changed, but it is not like that. That absorption changes because there is two different materials acting. Band gap change happens at the electronic level, and for that we have to dope the material, not a tuning. Tuning, a composite is a different and doping is a different. Like TiO2, if we dope with nitrogen, we can create some extra like Fermi levels, like valence band comes little upward, and we can tune the band.
Okay.
So composite is a different thing. Doping is a different.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
I'm sorry, actually. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. Sir, can we use thin film coating on solar panel to increase absorption? That was a question from Sarakutta.
Solar panel, actually, in the solar panel, we don't want to increase the absorbance, because absorption is a silicon property, which now in solar panel already what you have, it is there. Now in the solar panel, if we want to put a coating, we have to increase the transmission of the upper glass. That is called anti-reflection coating. And by transmission, now the more light will go to the solar panel and it will increase the absorptions. So this is like we can just do 1 to 2% absorption we can increase by putting this type of, but this 1-2% for one panel is like we think nothing, but when there is like full village, solar village, you can imagine that how much of more electricity we can generate. So we can't increase the absorption by tuning the inside property of the panel, but we can just put more light. We can allow more light to go. inside the panel.
Thank you, sir. And one more question from Dr. Mukesh. Which types of materials used in quantum dot cellular automated technology?
I'm sorry. I beg pardon. Sorry.
Pardon, sir. Shall I repeat?
I couldn't got the question. What type of material used in quantum dots and
That is within bracket he has put in quantum dot cellular automated technology.
I'm sorry, but I think we can discuss in a separate way. But as of now, I'm not having much idea on your particular question because this is also not field of my research particularly. Thank you so much. But we can have a chat. You can just put a mail to me, and we can do it together. Whatever research you
Yes,
want.
sir, yes. And Sarah Huda has asked for the previous question. Can you suggest which material can be used on solar panel to increase absorption?
On solar panel, if you want to put coatings, see there are two ways. Like either you remove the glass on the silica, we have to etch that panels, and we can put some TiO2 coatings. This is depend on the refractive index of the material. Like we have to play around with the refractive index material. On the glass, like we can put some organic material, but mostly inorganic material I can tell is ZrO2, SiO2, MgF2, MgNO3. So this type of coatings we can put over the panel. Generally used is silica. Pure silica coatings is generally used. But there are also like this is also not that easy that we just put because there will be also problem of like we have to do a lot of testing like weather stability at high temperature, how much this coating is stable, what is this anti-scratch property. If some birds is just sitting on that panel and that coatings give scratch, then instead of getting gain, you will lose more light. So we have to do all these studies and accordingly we can choose that what coatings and what type of materials we can use.
Thank you, sir. I think there is no more questions here. Is there any more question or shall we wind up, Dr. Vinod?
Yes, sir. We can wind, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. It was a very nice session and very elaborative also. Just went through very fast. And it was very nice hearing your research. Thank you once again. Anything else, sir? Vinod? You want to?
No,
I
sir.
can stop sharing the screen now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you, sir, for giving a wonderful talk regarding solar cells, different generations of solar cells. Thank you, sir, once again.
We'll get back to you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think there is an instruction for participants. I have mailed you the details for a software by name, I'm not sure. RASMOL, RASMOL. I think I have put in the WhatsApp as well as I have mailed you. Kindly download the software and think Dr. Surjit Deban, the third session, he will be talking about the software. He has given 2 files also to see the molecular structures. So kindly join by 1:50. The session will start exactly by 2 o'clock. So have a nice lunch and we will meet by 2:50. Okay. Thank you. I'm just ending the meeting. I will reopen it by 1:40 so that you can rejoin. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. Joshi sir, you can leave, sir. We will get back to you, sir. Thank you, sir.